Welcome back, everyone, to a mother's journey to holistic health and healing. I'm so glad you're here today. We're having a very deep and moving, powerful conversation today. This is episode 32 also, and today we are talking with Sonia, and she's a psychotherapist and somatic healer. And we're going to be diving into healing from trauma, infertility, womb healing, and also like really how to connect with our bodies. And so she's got so much experience, not just professionally, but also personally. And we're going to be talking about her story, her healing journey, and where she's gotten to now, especially now that she struggled with some infertility. And now 5 years later, she is expecting. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into so much emotional release, somatic work, what that looks like, talking about different types of therapy, healing, wound healing, what that is. So there's really so much that we're getting into today. So whether you're experiencing like infertility or carrying emotional pain or trauma, or really you just maybe want to reconnect with your womb and just healing, then this episode is definitely for you. And so we're going to dive right in. And yeah, I just want to thank you all for being here. And I'm going to introduce our guest now. So I'm going to bring her right on in. Sonia, tell us about yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me? Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is that I might cry simply because of the hormones and all that stuff. But I'm Sonia Fregoso. I'm from South Los Angeles, California. I was born and raised in Boyle Heights, which is also known as like East Los Angeles. And my parents are from Mexico, so I'm Mexican, Mexican American, Chicana, Latina. Um, and yeah, I'm a licensed therapist and a somatic healer on maternity leave right now. So I'm not seeing any clients, which is really nice. I'm actually getting used to like not working because I haven't not seen clients like in the past 10 years.
Like
I
face to
take
face,
vacations.
you mean like?
Yeah, like I take vacations and stuff, but like I'm literally not seeing anyone right now. So it's a little weird.
That's a big break for you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know I read from like some of your blogs, and you talked a lot about like, from your healing journey, like slowing down. And I'm sure like that's kind of like part of that integration, right?
It's probably the
Yeah.
biggest part, actually. It's like I'm gonna jump ahead a
Yeah.
little bit, but when you feel like you can actually start slowing down without feeling guilty,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you know you're healed.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's kind of like, and not feeling like there's always something you need to be doing, or if you feel like some kind of urge in your body or anxiety, like I need to be doing this, or just when resting feels like you said, like um, maybe awkward or just different, right?
It's unfamiliar.
Yeah, that's the word I think I was looking for. Yeah, and familiar for sure, especially if we're in a state of whether it's dysregulation, like with our nervous system, or just always on the go, 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 especially like as busy moms, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. And so, what inspired you to take a career into mental health? If you can kind of share us where that started.
Yeah, so I mean, it was when I first started community college back in 2007, I think. It was like right after high school. And I took a psychology course. And at this point, I grew up in a family, in a home that uh, mental health was not a topic that we talked about. Mental health, like, was not a thing,
Mm-hmm.
basically. You're too emotional, you're hysterical, you're a crybaby, right? It was all just like name calling and very judgmental of emotions, and never any really understanding of like, oh, what's going on with you? Like mental health was not a thing. So
Yeah.
when I started the psychology course, I was really intimidated just by the name psychology, right? I was like, oh, this class is for really smart people. Like, I don't know, it's probably going to be really hard. But I do like doing hard things. Growing up, I'm a very courageous person. I'm an Aquarius,
Mhm.
so I love taking risks, right? I'm a rebel. I don't like the rules and
Mhm.
things like that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna challenge myself and take the psychology course. And that course is what opened my eyes and opened my
Mhm.
mind to what mental health is, the fact that we have mental health, right? That's a
For
thing.
sure.
And it just started connecting all the dots for me as to why I was feeling the way that I was feeling, why I behave the way that I
Mm.
behave, why I thought the way that I thought. So it just completely blew me away, and I fell in love with psychology. And so from there, that's when I knew, like, okay, psychology is what I'm going to do. Not sure what I was going to do
Mhm.
with psychology, but I knew that I wanted to stick with this uh, this subject. And then later on in my college career, I was gonna I was about to graduate with my bachelor's, and there was like a career class, a career course, where they talk to you about what you could do with your psychology degree. And at that point, I really wanted to teach.
Mm.
I wanted to teach at a community college because that's where my life changed.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to do the same, right, for other people. And the only requirement for that was to get a master's degree to teach at a community college. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to get a master's degree. And so I went and searched all the master's degrees in psychology, and a lot of them were like, I forget the terms, but you kind of have to get a PhD. You can't
Mm.
just get a master's
Mhm.
degree. And I was like, I'm not trying to be in school for that long.
Right.
So then I found the marriage and family therapy program. um, it was a master's degree, and it was the first time too that I really was introduced to the concept of therapy. Um, when I read what I would be doing, it was the way that I conceptualized it was, oh, you're working with people one on one, and you're teaching them about psychology, right? Psychoeducation, and you're helping them like become a better version of themselves. And I was like, well, that's exactly what happened to me, but through school, right? I didn't actually have
Right.
therapy at that time. So I was like, oh, this is awesome because I love one-on-one. I'm an introvert, right? So like I'm really good one-on-one. And so I was like, okay, this program is for me, right? And so it was kind of like the universe was just giving me little glimpses of my future. And I was like, oh, yeah, I like that. Okay, I'm going to do that. And so that's how I got into the mental health field, is just by these little openings and opportunities and little signs from the universe of like, you should try this, you should do that. And then once I started the therapy program, mm, that just completely changed my life.
Yeah, we got to get into that next. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, right. I think too, like that's interesting though that that realization for you that started your path was in your education, right? Like by going to school, helping you to just open your eyes and start that self awareness, right? Like it just helping you to realize a lot of different things. What do you like? What do you think were some of those emotions that started to come up for you, or feelings that like when those realizations were just happening, when every time you would kind of learn something and you were like, oh my God, like you were just mind blown or just eyes wide open. What do you think were some of those that came up for you throughout the process?
I mean, the main feeling I got was just validation,
Mm.
right? Validation of like, you are normal. This happens to a lot of
Mm.
people, right? This is a normal trajectory for a first gen Latina. You know what I mean? Like every time, because we read a lot of research, and a lot of the research is based on the general population,
Mm-hmm.
right? Although there's some problems there, but
Mm-hmm.
the general population also includes, different races and
Yeah.
different ethnicities. And then there are some research that is specific to certain communities. And so the stuff that I was reading, obviously I wanted to learn more about the Latina experience, right? And so in that research, I saw myself in all of the people that were participants, right, in the research. And I did a lot of research on suicide in Latinas,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a lot about protective factors and risk factors of suicide. And I saw myself everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Saw myself in all the books. I saw myself in all the research, mainly because I was looking at research on the Latino
You
community.
related. Mm-hmm.
And so it was so validating to know, like, oh, I'm not the only one
Mm-hmm.
who like is growing up in a DV home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the only one who knows someone who has attempted suicide,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not the only one. Like this is happening everywhere.
Yes.
And that was so validating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think to a lot of us listeners, yeah, that in our generation, right around that time, and myself as well, like I can relate to that. Yeah, we weren't talked about around our emotions or how we're feeling, and it was more of just like go to your room or or whatever. Maybe it was just an emotional withdrawal from being yelled at and scolded at, and well, not really talking about like the situation, about what happened and why you felt like that, right? And we carry a lot of these things molds us as we get older. So yeah, just validating for you, right? This having that validation to make you feel like I'm not alone, like this is normal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then so another feeling other than validation was hope.
Mm. Oh
I
yeah.
felt so much hope because I was like, oh my God, I can help my family. I can help my
Oh.
community. I can help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just have to learn, right,
Mm-hmm.
how to help these
Mm-hmm.
people. So there was a lot of hope in the beginning of my
Do you
journey
feel
as
like that kind of like fueled like that
well.
inspiration, that internal motivation to, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
an important, I think, too, like piece to highlight is, yeah, those emotions that drive us towards our, especially when they're internal, right? Internal motivations, and not as, but just kind of like help us to, this is why I'm doing this, like your
Yeah,
why.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I found my
Yeah, that's
one.
huge. And then you mentioned, oh, was it the, when you got further along, like into the family marriage counseling program, like you hadn't really gotten fully into therapy yet. Like it was just learning about like what you could do, right? What you could do with it. And you just knew you wanted to help. Like you want to learn more to help yourself, but you knew you want to learn to help other people as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And can you take us back to the beginning of your healing journey? Maybe when it started, or like what was happening around in your life that time when you really thought about exploring, deeper layers of yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I see it, my healing journey started in that class, um, because that in that first psychology course, a lot of our assignments were self-reflection assignments. That's where I learned how to dream journal and interpret dreams. That's where I learned, you know, how beneficial journaling was and
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection. So it was kind of built into the class. But in that time, I didn't know I was healing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Looking back, I'm like, oh shit, I started my healing journey a long time ago
Right.
without
Not even
even knowing.
knowing it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the more, so I kept those practices,
Mm.
the dream journaling, and then the self-reflection journaling. I kept those practices going for years. And it was also around the time where I had my first breakup. So I was like 19, maybe, and I was in a 5-year relationship, and it was an abusive relationship. And so when that relationship ended, I felt liberated.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that I was going to school and I was learning all these things made me feel even more liberated. And I was like, oh, I love this feeling. I feel like I'm blossoming, and people would even tell me like, Sonia, you're blossoming. Like, this is amazing. Like, you're really coming out of your shell and da da da. And I was like, yeah, I feel that too. This feels really good. And that feeling motivated me to just continue getting better, learning more, and yeah, going deeper, right, into the layers of myself. But um, it wasn't until I guess when I started the graduate program, it was not a requirement to be in therapy,
Mhm.
but it was recommended. And so this was like the first time for me to be in therapy. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it because it's recommended and I really want to get accepted into this program. So, and I need to experience, what it's like to be a client, right? If I'm gonna be a therapist. So I started therapy, and my very first session, I cried the whole time. I was bawling. I was so nervous, and I was like, people talk about word vomit. Well, mine was just like tear vomit.
Mm.
I was just crying so much, hyperventilating. Um, it just felt so vulnerable.
Mhm.
You're in a room with a stranger who wants to know everything about you.
Mhm.
And if you are someone like me who had a lot of trauma and who was never allowed to speak about it and who
Mhm.
was never allowed to feel about it, when you finally find a space that is safe and someone who actually wants to hear you out and listen to your feelings and listen to your story, that is such a vulnerable space to be in. And so I completely just broke down because I don't know, I guess my body was like, oh, finally,
Mm.
we're going to get to release this stuff.
Mhm.
And so that was my first experience in therapy and my first experience of exploring deep layers. And I mean, I didn't explore much because all I did was cry. Um, but that's when it started. And I liked it because it felt really good once I left there, the fact that it's confidential, right? This therapist is not going to tell anyone. It's like it's just for me, and I actually get to talk about myself and someone's actually going to listen to me. Like it felt really relieving, and I was like, okay, I want to keep going.
That's what I
Like
was gonna
it
say.
was
Keep going.
hard,
Yeah.
but I want to keep going. And so that's kind of what gave me that motivation to just continue digging deeper and deeper and deeper because I was like, I obviously have a lot
Yeah.
inside of me.
So you went with with how you were feeling, right? Like you knew there was a lot of shifts happening, and kind of going back to like the beginning of what you talked about, like the universe just sending you these different little crumbles, little breadcrumb pieces, like this is your path, like here's something, this is the way to go, this direction, this direction. You trusted that and how it made you feel. And then you also like did the same thing with like the therapy. Like you tuned into what you were feeling, right? Those emotions, like I'm feeling a difference and I'm feeling these shifts and like, oh, this is hard, but like just acknowledging, like you were acknowledging how you were feeling and the process of the change and the growth that you were experiencing. So you're like, yeah, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to mention though, like, it sounds like it was kind of easy for me, right?
Not at
But
all.
I want to differentiate between me, who is a very sensitive person, and is really hard for me to keep my emotions bottled in. Like it's really hard for me.
Mm.
But there are some people who are really good at that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And who probably could have gone into their first therapy session and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, everything's great," right? That's impossible for me. Like I have tried. I have tried to bottle up my emotions and try to be fine, but if the energy like in the space calls for it to be vulnerable, that's just automatically where I go.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's not true for everyone.
All right.
That's actually really hard for a lot of
True.
people, right? So a lot of the clients that I see, they have a really hard time with the
Mm.
vulnerability,
And letting
and
go.
that's where to build trust, yeah, and to
Mm-hmm.
let.
Exactly.
So I just want to differentiate that. For me, it sounded easy for me to be vulnerable, but it's only because I literally don't have the control
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of other people have
Mm-hmm.
when it comes
Wow.
to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that that makes a lot of sense because we're also different in the ways that we're better at hiding the emotions or holding them in or like acting like everything's okay. And because they've done it for so long, or other people, it's just like maybe it has been that way, but now that they're in this safe environment, this safe place, they feel it's okay. And it's just like for you, it happened, it just came out, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
you gave yourself that. It just came out. Oh man, that's really powerful. And just those was that like a first couple of years where you, I mean, from having the psychology class up until going through those sessions, like what do you feel like was that time frame?
So my first psychology course was like in 2007, and then my first therapy course was like in 2011.
Mm-hmm. So that's quite a few years, right? I think it's really important for to like just acknowledge, like, yeah, the healing process, like there's, you never know where it's going to take you and how it's like ongoing, right? As we call it, a journey, because
Yeah.
it's like you never know what's going to come to the surface or what's going to come up. And that would have been already what, several years, about 3 or 4 years or so. Yeah. And it was just getting started for you.
Yeah, it was just getting started.
Uh, anything else that you want to touch on and in the parts of like when it started your healing after the therapy sessions?
Mm, so I've had many therapists throughout my life.
Oh.
um, I've had maybe more than five, simply because they were all great, right? All the therapists that I saw were really great, but the connection wasn't always
Mm,
there, right? I didn't feel completely seen or completely understood. And it's mostly because most of the therapists that I saw were white.
mm,
And so there was a cultural gap,
mm-hmm,
right? There was something missing. And so I bounced around from therapist to therapist for quite some time. They all helped me in their own way. And then every therapist helped me explore different layers of myself, right? I wasn't going in with the same uh, issues,
oh,
I guess. I was just going in because I needed a space. I needed a space to talk. I needed a space to feel. Um, and the one thing actually the connection I was looking for was a therapist who was comfortable with the amount of crying that I would do,
mm,
because I cried a lot. Um, and I could sense, right, that some therapists were a little
oh,
uncomfortable with how much I cried. And as soon as I sensed that, I was like, okay, I gotta move on, because, I felt like they thought something was wrong with me. And that's not a feeling that I wanted to feel, because that's what I felt my whole life
mm,
because of the crying. I've always cried a lot.
mm-hmm,
And so I would get punished for crying. I would, get made fun of for crying, right? And crying, I don't know, it's just how my body expresses
mm-hmm,
itself with all
mm-hmm,
emotions, not just
mm-hmm,
sadness, but anger, happiness, all of it. Oh, I'm just always
mm-hmm,
crying. And so I knew that there was nothing wrong with
right.
me. Um, it was everyone else who saw me as
Mm,
different, or saw me as like something's wrong with her because she cries too
mm-hmm,
much. Um, and so whenever I felt that from a therapist, I was like, okay, I gotta cut ties
mm-hmm.
here, because you're making me feel the same way I felt
You
my whole life.
sensed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I sensed it. And so, I kept bouncing around. Um, and then I finally found the therapist that I see now, who is a Latina, and she can hold tears. She, oh my God, I love her so
Mm,
much. Um, but yeah, so that's a whole other
mm-hmm,
journey, right? It's finding the right therapist or healer for you. You
Yeah.
know, you really want to find someone who is safe, like 100%, and does not make you feel any kind of
Right.
way about how you express yourself, what you're saying, what you're thinking, right? Any little judgment, um, or like
Or
skepticism or
comment or
something, if you feel it, pay attention to
mm-hmm.
that. Bring it up
Mm-hmm.
in your sessions. It's really important that your support knows, right, how they're making you feel.
When that happened to you, or when you felt that, like, what were some things that you communicated to them, or how did you do it when you felt like
Yeah.
it wasn't clicking, or you weren't feeling like,
Well, I was just like, you know what, I feel great, thank you. I'm gonna move on
Mhm.
now. Mostly because I didn't want to, I wouldn't say I was avoiding conflict. I think I was more like, um, I expected a lot
Mm.
from
Mhm.
therapists. And if you, like, I guess that was a marker for me of like whether or not they were a good
Mhm.
therapist. Um, like if you are, giving off this vibe to your clients, it's not my job to change you. It's not my job to make you a better therapist. Like if this is the kind of therapist you want to be, go ahead, but I don't want to be your
Yeah.
client anymore.
So just maybe
But I wouldn't say
oh,
anything.
okay.
I would just be like, that was a turn
Yeah.
off.
Like you didn't need to feel like you had to express that. It was kind of like, okay, yeah, thanks for the help this far, and whether or not they, you don't even have to say like I'm gonna go look for another therapist. Like you just thank you
Right.
for the time we've had, and whatever, leave it at
Yeah.
that. So just
'Cause on top of that, on top of what I sensed, there was not the connection that I
mhm.
wanted. So it was easy for me to be like, the connection wasn't even
Mhm.
there. So whatever, let's move
Mhm.
on. It's kind of like
Yeah.
dating.
It's kind of true, right?
But I did, I detached and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for something else, or I'm gonna take a
Yeah.
break from
Okay,
therapy.
yeah.
I took a lot of breaks actually.
That's a good point too. I guess using your just discernment, right? Of like knowing and touching base with like, oh, what feels too much? I need to have a pause. I need to have a break right now to breathe, to just like be in life right now and then integrate what I've learned. Or is it like, yeah, this is what I need right now, right? And making them their own judgment. And like we said, talking with different therapists to see who's that good fit for you, right?
Yeah, and I think I also part of why I would leave therapy. So throughout my graduate program, which was like 2 years, um, my family was actually going through a lot of crises. Um, my parents, my sisters, things like that. And so anytime there was a crisis in my family, it impacted me so much. Like I wanted to help them. I wanted to like fix them,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't because we can't we can't do that. And so whatever crisis my family was going through, that would push me to find a therapist and be like, I need help with this. So
Mm.
I would be that client who would only go to therapy when I had a
Mm-hmm.
crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until later when I found the therapist that I currently have that I've been with her even when there's no
Right.
crisis.
Yeah. And I'm such a deep believer in that too. Like, as long as you have that person that you can connect with and feel safe with. And I feel the same way. Like, when I'm talking about, when it comes to us moms and mothers, like taking care of ourselves, especially in times of stress and chaos, like those practices, the things that help us kind of realign and manage the chaos. And it's not just about putting those things into practice, like when days are quote unquote good or like settled or calm, but it's also on like the harder times, like so kind of the opposite. So it's like with therapy, it's like not just going when things are overwhelming or stressful, but maybe they're there also for backup because you never know like when things are going to come up or arise, right? Just always having
Yeah.
that connection there, that support system and that resource.
Yeah. I didn't learn that till
Yeah,
later.
that's part of the process, obviously. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I found you through Instagram, and like I read your blog and I was really touched by it. And one of the things that also I wanted to ask about so that our listeners can hear about is like you talked about also as part of your therapy sessions how you did some assisted psychedelic therapy, right, in the blog. How do you feel like that accelerated your healing journey, or like maybe what can you share what that experience was like for you or what it revealed to you?
Yeah, it revealed everything.
Like a band-aid.
It was intense. So okay, before these sessions, the psychedelic sessions, I was still, in therapy doing this is when I started learning the somatic work, like somatic healing and how to sit with my body, how to listen to my body, how to be with my body, how to connect to it. And at this point, I was also going through infertility. My family was still going
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of crises. Um, and yeah, I was feeling very unfulfilled in life. I was feeling very lonely, and there was a lot of grief coming up for me around my past and all the people that I had lost, not necessarily to death, but estrangement. So all of that was coming up for me, and I was feeling mostly depressed and burned out from
Mm-hmm.
work. And so I was talking to some of my friends who are also therapists, and we'll just talk about what we're doing with our work and stuff like that. And I had two friends who mentioned psychedelic assisted therapy, and I was like, what is that? Like, I had heard of people doing like ayahuasca, traveling to outside of the country and doing ayahuasca and stuff like that. And I was like, is that what you're talking about? And they're like, no, 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 this is different. Like, this is like a therapy session. It's just you and your therapist. And they're like really long sessions, and you're doing somatic work, and then stuff comes up, right? And it kind of, the way that they described it, they were very considerate when they told me, because they were like, everyone's experience is
Mm-hmm.
different. It's not going to heal you, right? It's like, it's going to open you up to the healing work that needs to be done.
Mm. That's an
And I was
important
like,
part to
oh,
mention for sure.
okay. And so I sat with it. They gave me their contact. And it took me a while to actually contact
Mm.
her because I was intimidated.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
like, I really want to heal. Like, I was at a point where I kept thinking something was wrong with me, because I was doing all the healing things. I was going to therapy. I went to couples therapy with my husband. That was helpful. I was learning all of these therapy modalities. I was setting boundaries with family. Um, I was reading and writing and
Mm-hmm.
journaling, meditating, breath work, spirituality. I was doing a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but I still felt like there was something wrong with me. It was like, why do I feel so fucking
Mm-hmm.
depressed? Why am I not happy? Like, my life is great.
Mm-hmm.
I live, in a very peaceful home now with my husband, happily married, amazing partner, extremely supportive. Like the like I got really lucky, I would say, with my partner. And still I was like, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
happy. Like, I'm not I guess I was chasing happiness.
Mm-hmm.
But also I was just not at peace. My mind was racing. I was always in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. Being in the present moment was really hard. I wasn't really enjoying life. It just felt really heavy and really dark. And then not being able to have, a child just added on top of that, right?
Yeah.
All the grief every month. We were trying
Sure.
really hard. And every month it was just a negative test, negative test, negative test. And we tried for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And that kind of just brought me down even more. Right. And so I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
man, what is going on? And so that's when I started womb healing. And the womb healing that I started, it was about fertility,
Mm-hmm.
but that was more on the back burner because I came to accept that I don't have control of whether or not I get pregnant. Um, and I kind of wanted to leave that to the universe. But I knew that something was wrong with my womb because my periods were extremely painful. And I had been experiencing PMDD for years, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And so, right before my period, that's when things would get extremely dark. Um, Suicidal ideation happened, right before my period. Lots of crying happened right before my period. Lots of fights
And these are some of the
happened before.
symptoms that, okay.
Uh-huh. These are all the symptoms. So just think
Mm,
dysphoria, right? Like everything
mm.
sucks.
Like a
I felt the
depression for
world
sure.
sucks like
Or
this.
stronger.
Very
Mm.
strong. Um, and so I knew that womb wise and hormonally, like I had to do something. So that's when I dove into womb healing. I started reading all the books on, our menstrual cycle. I started tracking my menstrual cycle like religiously, every single day, all of my symptoms, so that I could find the
Mm-hmm.
patterns. I was going to the doctor, I was going to womb healers,
Mm.
and then that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to do the psychedelic
Oh,
assisted therapy.
okay. Okay. So you, before actually doing the assisted psychedelic therapy session, you were doing all your own practices first, right? Not to mention therapy, but journaling, like the breath work, meditation, all things that you felt are like we feel like we should or what we could do, right? All the you did all possibly what you could, and it just wasn't. You just weren't feeling those benefits. Like everything was to kind of, and although there was progression, right, and change, there was still something in you that was like, no, there's still something there, right? Which
Yeah.
pushed you to like, okay, let's go deeper into wound healing. Can we go back because you talked a little bit about you learning about some somatic healing and therapy, and then they kind of also helped you through that. Can you talk to tell listeners a little bit about what that is, and maybe some examples?
Yeah, so what I learned, right, because
Mm,
I feel like somatic is a buzzword now.
yeah, I agree.
Everybody uses it in different contexts, but the way that I learned somatic healing was to focus on the physical sensations in your body, right? Um, and that could be uh, physical sensations that you that you create. Like, so for example, if I were to grab, right, a crystal, and I'm feeling this crystal and I'm feeling the edges, like the physical sensation of this, right? Like I'm creating that. So that's one way to work with your body, is to feel
Mm,
things,
your
right?
senses,
Skin,
your sense of
using your
touch.
senses.
Okay,
Huh? So using your senses, touch, smell, sight, all that
okay.
stuff. But then there's also the physical sensations that are happening inside.
Mm.
So let's say, so I suffered from
Oh
migraines.
yeah, those are rough.
And so anytime I would get a migraine,
Mm.
I would literally focus on the
Yeah.
pain, right? So you focus on the pain. How big is the pain? Where is the pain? Um, what intensity is the pain? What temperature is the pain, right? Getting really, really detailed with the stuff that you're feeling in your
Yeah.
body and focusing on that. And the more you focus on these sensations, they'll eventually start going
Mm.
away. And that's what I would
Wow.
do with my migraines.
Wow.
And so um, it gets a lot deeper when you do psychedelic assisted
Mm-hmm.
therapy. You focus on these
Mm-hmm.
sensations, and if they're connected to a trauma, it will take you.
Because your body knows, right? Your body knows.
It'll show you. It'll show you the root
Wow.
of the physical sensation. So that's the kind of somatic healing that I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your
Yeah, that's
question?
helpful. And it's kind of like it seems like the work that you had done already on on your own all those years already was like prepared you for like that session, right? All the practices you learned.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the universe has
Yeah.
always given
Yeah.
me these crumbs, and like
So powerful.
it's just it's so
It's
powerful.
so interesting. Yeah, I love that. So, okay. So then you had you saw the womb healers before the psychedelic assisted therapy session. What kind of work did they do?
So they did a Mayan massage
Oh, nice.
on my abdomen and
Okay.
uterus. So I that session I did for fertility, because everybody was telling me you have to get a Mayan massage, you have to get a Mayan massage. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna get a Mayan massage. And so that's mostly what they did, and they did vaginal steaming.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
You heard
have.
of
Mm-hmm.
vaginal steaming? So they did that. Um, I did some acupuncture for womb healing as well, for the fertility. And then I went on a retreat to Puerto
Oh,
Rico.
wow.
And it was kind of a double retreat because it was for a training to be a facilitator for women's
Oh, okay.
circles. But at the same time, you are in a women's
Mm-hmm.
circle healing uh, Shakti medicine.
Mm.
So that's womb as well.
Oh, okay.
So there was a lot of spiritual healing in that retreat. That's where I learned a lot of the breath work
Mm.
um,
Okay.
practices
That makes
and
sense.
and kind of chanting, body movement, and a lot of
Oh,
ancestral
okay.
practices in that retreat.
Yeah. So everything was kind of
Yeah.
like becoming interconnected. Like all the practices that you were doing and were kind of just filling in some of the pieces to the puzzle to part of your healing journey. And this wound healing towards the end, before you went to the assisted psychedelic therapy, was like more geared toward like, yeah, infertility, but also it was like also spiritual for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. So, is there anything that you want to share about that experience, your assisted psychedelic therapy session, and what was revealed to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into that. So I did two sessions.
Okay.
Um, the first one is what is called like a handshake, where you kind of you're
Handshake.
introduced to the medicine, and it's not supposed to be intense or as intense. And so
Oh,
my first session was actually very somatic,
okay.
right? And what I mean by that is that I didn't get any memories,
Mm,
um, nothing like that. It was all kind of just a purging of energy.
okay.
And so I cried
And
a
your
lot.
emotions. Okay.
I
And
vomited a
physical
lot.
body, like your physical and your emotions. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
physical body and emotion. And I did get some layers of my childhood trauma come up, like
Mm,
the DV between my parents, growing up in a household with violence. But what I kept experiencing was um,
mm-hmm.
anxiety and my body telling me where all of this tension was coming from,
Mm,
right? And all the hypervigilance, right? It was coming from the violence that I grew up in my
mm,
home. And so that's kind of your body is talking to you
yeah.
in this way, like it'll show you what the trauma is, and then you kind of realize, like, oh, that makes so
Mm-hmm.
much sense. Like that's how I
Where did you
felt
feel it in
when
your
this
body?
happened.
Where were some places?
It was
Everywhere?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in my shoulders, in my back, in my
Oh my
stomach.
gosh. Yeah, it makes so much sense. I feel like too, like something that's to highlight, right, is that not only is it just the everyday stressors that we have, or we could just be having like a good day, everything's going well, but all of a sudden you're like, maybe something happened or hurt something or a trigger or whatnot, and all of a sudden you're like feeling all those physical sensations, tension in your shoulder, and you're like, what am I feeling right now? Or like, why is this, right? Like we never know. It could be some things related from past childhood, something that our brain just blocked out, maybe as us like a survival, right? Which is so interesting. Do you think it was maybe because they did like a different dosage? They start you off on like a smaller dosage, and the first session that it was kind of like the handshake versus like maybe a higher dosage the second time around, and it was more potent?
No, it
Oh,
was
it
the
was the
same
same
dosage.
dosage? That is so
Mhm.
interesting. I guess, do you feel it's like
Yeah.
the questions they ask you as far as the journey the second time around?
No, so in the psychedelic journey, the way that my healer facilitates is, you take your medicine, you lay down, and it's just you and your body.
Mm.
She doesn't ask me any
Wow.
questions.
Just whatever
She
comes up.
doesn't really, she's just babysitting.
Making sure you're okay. Yeah.
Basically. If I want to talk to her, I can. If I want to ask her questions, I can.
Oh.
She's still a therapist, so she's like redirecting me to go back into my body.
Mm.
She's
To the
redirect
present
because
moment.
there are moments where, you might try to avoid what's happening, and so it's her job to kind of facilitate you back to the
I
journey.
see. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are different forms of psychedelic assisted therapy, but the way that my therapist does it is very
Yeah,
hands
I think
off.
that's yeah, it's an important thing to note too, right? Is that everybody has their own approach, their own different ways of approaching it, gifts or just their
Yeah.
practices, and that what works for somebody is not going to work for somebody else. They also, I'm sure, they also get to know their client and their background and what makes them feel safe, and kind of like yeah, okay, yeah, and then what happened next?
Yeah, so in that first session, so a lot of just purging and vomiting, things like that. And then I felt great. I
Mm,
was like, wow, that was amazing. Like I
wow,
released so much
wow.
anger. I released so much grief and loneliness. And so it took me about, I think that was in February, maybe like 5 or 6
Mm,
months to decide I want to do another one
mm-hmm.
because I felt so great. I felt clarity. I felt light. Um, I also realized something that I kept telling like my husband and my friend was like, I was really mentally ill
Mm,
before this psychedelic assisted therapy. Like I was in my head
wow,
so
yeah.
much. And so I was out of my head, I was in my body, I was in the present moment.
Oh, that's how you
Um,
noticed a big shift too, right?
yeah,
How
huge
long did it
shift.
take for you to notice those changes and you started integrating
Right
them
away,
right away?
right
Wow.
away. I think maybe like a week after, I was in the kitchen with my husband, and I remember this day because so my thoughts, they usually are going 100 miles an hour. And that day I was like, my thoughts are going like 1 mile per hour right now. There's like I'm like having one thought at a time. Like this is so cool. I'm so present right
Yeah.
now. So that right away was felt really good. And then one thing that happened actually in my body was that I couldn't drink coffee anymore.
Mm.
My body was like, I took one sip of coffee and right away I would get like a radiating
Wow.
pulse in my head of like, do not drink coffee.
Wow.
I was like, oh shoot, my body does not want coffee. And I was, I drank coffee every single day. I was the type
Yeah.
of person that if I didn't have coffee, I would
Same
get a
here.
migraine.
Yeah. That's
So
interesting.
that changed. A lot of physical
Changes.
changes happened as well. And in my womb, um, I still had very painful periods, but the way that I interacted with the
Mm.
pain was,
Okay.
yeah, not sure how to really explain that. But
Was it like a more gentle way that you were being with
yeah,
yourself, or like, what do we think that was?
there was more compassion for
Mm-hmm.
sure. A lot more compassion for
Mm.
myself. So that was the first session, and then on Netflix, there's a documentary called How to Change Your Mind, and it's all about psychedelic assisted therapy. And so my husband and I were watching that, and one of the episodes talks about repressed memories.
Mm-hmm.
And after watching that episode, I was like, I need to do another session because I think there's a repressed memory, in my body. And so I scheduled my appointment and we prepared for it. And then the day before, I wanted to cancel because I knew that something was going to come up and I knew it was going to be really intense. But I did it anyway. I didn't cancel. Went in very nervous, but I also had a lot of hope. I was like, this is what I need. Like, I know that this is what I need. This is what's been, you know, uh, hurting me my whole life. This is it. I had some clue of what it would be. I had always been curious, or I always questioned whether or not I was sexually abused as a child, but I had no memory of it. So I always thought, like, nah, I don't think I was. So I had a little inkling of like, that's probably what's going to come up.
Mm.
And so when you're in the session, you don't really have a sense of time. So I don't know when exactly it
Mm-hmm.
happened, but I do remember what happened. And I was in my body and my jaw kept wanting to clench. I kept wanting to make it relax. And I told my therapist, I was like, my jaw keeps wanting to clench. And all she said was, go with it. So I let it clench, and it clenched so hard, it made me kind of turn over and roll up into a ball. And I just remember saying, it hurts. And boom, that's when the memory came up.
Wow.
And I kind of got up and I was like, all of the reality kind of set in, all the information. Like I was overwhelmed with information in that moment. And I just cried for the rest of the session because I couldn't believe it. And that's what happened.
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
And now you're doing so much powerful healing work for so many.
Yeah,
I can't imagine. I'm sorry. What that
it's
must have been
okay.
like. And I'm sorry.
It was devastating. Yeah, it was devastating. I feel really strong now talking about it. I don't think I would be able to talk about this, 3 years ago
Yeah.
when I found out. Um, but yeah, that completely turned everything upside down. So what happened in this session, right? That memory came up, and what happened to me mentally and physically was that I regressed back to 4 years
Oh,
old,
yeah.
right? And that is what started the integration process for me. So I saw my therapist every
Mm-hmm.
week. Um, did I see her twice a week?
That same
No, I think
therapist
I
that
saw
took you through the session?
her,
Okay.
same therapist. I saw her every week, and we would process what came up for me, right? Because so much, even though it was just a glimpse of the memory, my body was remembering
Yeah.
everything, right? I couldn't really be touched by my
Yeah.
husband. I couldn't have sex with my husband. I couldn't eat sometimes, because it was just there, right? It felt like I had been traumatized by the session, but in reality, what was happening was that all the trauma was
It was
coming
opened
out of
up.
me. It opened
Mm-hmm.
up. So all the trauma that I had repressed was present.
Mm.
And my job was to process it
Yeah.
as an adult because I couldn't
When you were
process it as a
younger.
4-year-old.
Yeah. So do you think it was like, I mean, like a combination of like inner child healing and then how you're working through it as an adult in your daily life situations when you, I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. When you were working with your therapist, was she like going back to your inner child, or it was more like of you were just kind of sharing with her or him like your experiences, and then she would guide you like through that process?
So what we started doing was parts work.
Oh, okay.
Have you
Yeah.
heard of
Uh-huh.
parts
Like
work?
the and the family systems. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Internal
internal
family
family
systems. Yeah.
system.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That and it's very similar to inner child work, but parts work is just extremely, extremely
Yeah.
powerful, and that's the kind of healing that I do with people as well. So we started doing parts work, um, but it took us a while to get there because I think what my therapist was doing at first was just allowing me to feel, right, and process what I had just
Mm-hmm.
learned, allowing me to be in this 4-year-old
Yeah.
mind and
Yeah.
heart, which was really, really important to build safety,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing that was taken away
Yeah,
from
those
me.
physical sensations. What, so kind of like on that note, what are some signs do you think like physically and emotionally that like our body is holding on to trauma, repressed like memories like that? What do you think those might be? Maybe like personally speaking for you, or maybe like some that maybe some of your past clients have shared.
Yeah. I mean, if you have an inkling
Mm-hmm.
that something might have happened to you, I think you should trust that, right? Because I always did.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there was someone in the family who abused younger children, but I never thought that I would be one of those
Yeah,
children. So there's that, right? What are the facts
true.
in your life? And then, and this one's a little controversial, I think, because people don't really understand the power of emotions and the mind, but physical illnesses,
Mm. Oh yeah.
any physical illness can be caused by repressed
Mm-hmm.
memories or repressed.
Yeah, I agree to some
It
extent.
doesn't have to be specifically one physical illness. It could be
Like
any.
maybe in your case, the symptoms you were having, right, with your whole infertility and your PMS
Mhm.
symptoms and for pain.
EMT, all that stuff. That's definitely what I think was in my
Mm-hmm.
body because of this repressed memory. I mean, it makes sense. It was in my womb,
Yeah. Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And the
So physical illnesses, especially physical illnesses that don't have an
mm-hmm.
explanation.
Oh yeah,
The doctors are like, "Oh, we don't really know
right.
what it
That
is."
happens a lot.
It's
I
like,
hear that
"Mm,
happening a lot.
it's probably psychosomatic."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
so interesting, so powerful. Um, and after the second, or I guess after time kind of went on, after that session, when was it that like you did another pregnancy test and you were like positive? What? What was that like?
Yeah, that was let's see, I did that journey in 20, I want to say 2022. Um, and then I just got pregnant this year,
Oh,
2024,
okay,
or
yeah,
2 years
2 years
later.
later.
2 years later, and I got pregnant. And in those 2 years, girl, the healing was intense. Like I have been remembering the sexual abuse and all the other abuses for the past 2 years with my therapist. Like that's where we go.
Mm,
Every session,
mm-hmm.
that's where we go. Right. So it's not like I did the psychedelic journey and then never talked about it
Right.
again or never thought about it again. Like, no, I worked really hard at releasing, processing, and helping my body feel safe again for the past 2, 3
Mm-hmm.
years.
Do you
Which
feel
is
like
really
all that work and releasing and helped you to conceive?
Oh, absolutely. I know it
Yeah.
for a fact.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like all that work because you were at a point like kind of remembering back to when you were telling us about like all the work you were doing, the therapy, the traditional talk therapy, the journaling, the meditation, the breath work, going to the workshop out of town, out of to Puerto Rico, the womb healing, like all the things. And you were just getting discouraged because it was like every time it's getting negative. And not only that, like I don't feel a change, I don't feel a shift right before you went to the assisted psychedelic therapy session. Was there ever a point that you were like, I'm done, like I'm done with this, like go on this path of healing? Was there ever a point or thought that ever came up for you where you wanted to give up or stop?
I've never wanted to give up on healing, but definitely I gave up on trying to get
Mm,
pregnant. Yeah. But healing has always been like my greatest
mm-hmm.
motivator because I have felt a lot of progress in my healing, but never as much as I did with the psychedelic assisted therapy. But that's not to say that you
Yeah.
need psychedelic assisted therapy to feel this kind of depth of healing. I think somatic healing can really take people to this place that I'm in. without the
I
medicine.
agree.
The medicine is really just
It's a
an
tool.
opener, right? But if you are open to healing, somatic healing can take you there.
Yeah, I think it's also, yeah, it's important to point out, like I said earlier, what works for somebody might not work for somebody else or might not be necessary or needed. And if it calls to you, right? If it calls to you, if it resonates. And I think that's something too, not just like we said earlier. I mean, I think that's another thing that's being like a buzzword or a trend is like medicine and ceremonies and like doing all these types of different plant medicines. And it's like from just thing, maybe not even being from a sacred place. It's like, I don't know. I feel like that's being taken away, especially in our culture, in our community, by just whoever,
I agree.
which is really sad. Yeah, important to note that, yeah, if it calls to you, find a trusted therapist, right? Someone that yeah, for sure.
I mean, they don't have to be a
A
therapist, but
healer. Yeah, exactly. And that has experience in that for sure.
yeah, yeah, my therapist had a lot of experience under her belt with
Making you
the
feel
psychedelic.
safe as the number one thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so many women I think feel disconnected from their bodies, and I definitely have been there too, and without us even realizing why. In your own words, what do you think it means to be disconnected from your body, and how do you think trauma contributes to that disconnection?
So trauma in and of itself is the process of disconnection, right?
Mm,
Simply because the disconnection is meant to keep you alive, right? So trauma is a survival mechanism that our body has evolved, right, to protect us. And so feeling disconnected from your body, for me, in my experience, was that I lived in my head,
mm,
completely lived in my head, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, creating
mm.
stories, rehearsing conversations, like
Wow.
just all the things. I was always in my head. That's the biggest sign of disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be in the present moment for more than a
Oh gosh,
second.
it's so hard to do.
That's a
Yeah.
disconnection.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Right. There's so many things coming left and right from us, and that survival mode, like I think you nailed it, whether it's coming from trauma or if it's coming from, I don't know, just the chaos of motherhood or survival mode in
Mhm.
motherhood and just getting through the day without support, like, right, is really hard to help us come back to our bodies for sure. How do you
Yeah.
think, what are some things that you feel you can share? What practices helped you to reconnect in your body in a safe, empowering way?
Yeah. I was, thinking about that. And because our lives are so busy
I
and,
know.
we're always doing things and our head is probably the only place we feel safe in. Um, that doesn't mean that you are doing things wrong, right? Like if you're in your head. What you can do is start creating space to be in your body, right? So that could be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour a day, right? To just be in your body. That's going to help you build your capacity to be in the present
Mm-hmm.
moment, right? So if you live in your head, there's nothing wrong with you, but you can make space. And the way that I do that is by sitting with my body and scanning the physical
Mm-hmm.
sensations. That's
Yeah.
it. That's really it. And you don't have to analyze anything. You don't have to figure anything
Mm-hmm.
out. You don't have to know why something exists. You don't have to know why you're feeling a certain way. Observation itself is growing a muscle,
Yes, I
right? So
agree.
we have the thinking
Mm-hmm.
brain, and that's us being in our head, and then we have the noticing brain. And most of us don't
Observing.
use the noticing brain.
Mm-hmm.
So the notice think of these as two arms, right? Like so when you're doing bicep
Mm-hmm.
curls, so the thinking brain is super strong.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Our noticing brain, so
Yeah,
weak. Right? So
exactly.
you want to build muscle with the noticing brain. And so all you have to do is notice physical sensations in your body to build that capacity, to build that
Mm-hmm.
muscle.
Yeah, I agree.
And
It definitely takes
before
practice.
you know it, you're going to be noticing things all around
Yeah.
you, and that means that you're present.
Yeah, I love that. And I like the one that you mentioned earlier, just kind of coming back to the senses, right? And I feel like that's a nice way to help with like emotional regulation too at some point. Like teaching my son some of those things is like, let's just tune into our
Absolutely.
senses for a minute. Let's just take a pause, right? To help us give us a sense of space too. Let's just do a quick check-in, and whatever that would look like is a top bottom down scan, right? Visualization, I think, is very
Right.
powerful.
And it's so important not to go into
Mm.
analyzing. That's using your
Right. And
thinking
then there's
brain.
already disconnection already.
Exactly. Just
Yes,
observe.
observation. There's so much power in that
That's it.
for sure. Just
Yep.
trying to, yeah, always in our brain for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that.
So that's like my number one skill. Is like literally I just sit down,
Hmm.
right, in a very quiet place, turn on a candle, turn on an incense,
Yes.
whatever feels good to you, drink some tea, drink some water, but sit down, put a timer, right? Because when you go inward, you kind of lose sense of time.
Yeah.
So put a timer and then just sit and then just notice. And you might even notice like my brain won't shut up. That's
You're
okay. You
noticing,
notice.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And important to note too, I think for those, especially as moms who are busy, it's like, okay, why don't a lot of things that I often hear is I don't have time. I get that a lot.
Mm,
But then there's always time. So you can make a time, it's like 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever time it is. It's like doing the work intentionally, right? To seeing
right.
what that looks like into your day is like very powerful. And it's better than nothing for sure to help you start
Mhm.
building that, like we said, that muscle and that practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned in your blog, I was reading, and it said that vulnerability has been one of the most powerful tools for your growth and your healing. How and what have been some other key ingredients that have helped you to support you through your healing journey so far?
Yeah. So I feel like I had mentioned earlier, vulnerability for me is an automatic response. It's really hard for me to cover things up. And so I've noticed that when I am vulnerable, that's kind of what people admire about me, right? It's a compliment that I get a lot. It's like, oh my God, Sonia, you're so vulnerable. It's so beautiful. And I'm over here like, I can't control it. I can't not be vulnerable. I
Yeah.
don't know what to tell
Uh,
you. But it's also been key because my vulnerability kind of like uh triggers, I don't know, compassion in
mhm,
people. And it makes them feel comfortable with me. It makes them feel safe, and it makes
mm,
them, respond to me in a way that's just
mhm,
authentic. So I don't know. I feel like my vulnerability is like
mm,
contagious.
mhm.
And I think that's true for anyone's vulnerability.
I
You
agree.
know, when we show up vulnerable, it's contagious, and it's a beautiful
Hmm.
thing. It's courageous too.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Um, other key ingredients:
Mhm.
courage.
Oh my gosh, yes,
Do the
100%.
things that scare you,
Yes.
right? Facing my fears, um, support, from the people around me. I have sisters that have supported me throughout my healing journey. I've had my husband, who has been my greatest support system throughout my healing journey. Friends, colleagues. I was in um, a therapist group, so a group of therapists that meet up
Mm,
like twice a month, and we just talk about our personal
that's
lives.
nice.
We talk about our healing journeys, and I was going through the psychedelic-assisted therapy while I was in this group, um, and it was really essential
Hmm.
to have a group of therapists who, one, understood what I was doing, because they were also um,
Yes.
thinking about doing like psychedelic assisted therapy. Like we're all on the same page when it comes to healing,
Hmm.
right? We consider ourselves holistic
Hmm.
healers. So that was really important to have that
Yeah,
community.
for sure. I
Well,
agree.
community is really important, and resources like knowing that I need to take breaks from healing. I need to have fun.
Yes, you gotta enjoy life. You
I
gotta
need to
find,
enjoy my life.
yes.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
even like, because healing is so
It
hard,
is.
healing is so deep and it takes you into really dark places, and you kind of forget that there's a whole ass life
Right?
that you have
For
outside of your healing journey.
sure. Forget
So
about those moments.
going to
Having,
Disneyland was very
yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
Going on vacations, road trips, hiking, Mother Nature, just resourcing was very, very, very
Mhm.
important.
Oh, I love all that.
One of the things that I teach people is that it takes, there are four pillars to healing: practice, patience, persistence, and
Mm.
play.
I love that.
Yeah,
Definitely have to make room for those. The play part. It's got to always be about seriousness in life and be focused on just this healing work, but not forgetting the present moment and all the beauty that's within it, right? To help us feel grounded and connected with ourselves and those around us. For sure. Yeah, I love that. So, yeah, facing your fears, being encouraged, right? Seeking out support. And that's become a theme I realize with a lot of people when it comes to sharing stories is having some kind of sense of support system, whether it was a support group or a family member or just someone or friend. Even support groups on like Facebook. I was in a support group. And even just having that, you just become connected with those other women, right? That are going through similar situation or just people that kind of understand and feel what you're going through so you can like relate and just be like, yeah, I'm not alone. And it's nice to like be able to open up to other ones, right? Like your partner or whomever who's willing to hear your therapist. But at the end of the day, it's also helpful to feel seen and heard and like related to other people who are maybe in the similar shoes, right? Because they know, they understand.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because imagine if you're doing this healing journey on your own, you're just gonna live in your head.
Exactly.
And that's not productive to healing at all.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, now that you're in this season of pregnancy, wow. And after, man, all that you've been through, how do you honor your body and your emotions on a daily basis? How are you taking care of yourself right now and baby?
Yeah, I mean, I listen to my
Mm-hmm.
body. I do whatever it tells me to do. If it tells me to lay down and rest, I lay down and rest. If it tells me to walk, I walk. If it tells me to drink water, I drink water. Like I literally am just listening, listening, listening all day. And what I mean by that is I'm paying attention to the physical sensations in my body and I allow them to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do I need right now? What do I need? And then emotions, I just let them flow, right? Especially now
Mm-hmm.
because these emotions
Yeah, exactly.
roller
Yeah, I
coaster.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so is the pregnancy in itself. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't, I stay away from shaming myself for any emotions that I
Mm.
feel.
Self
Sometimes,
compassion. Mm-hmm.
self-compassion. Sometimes I'll have the emotions of like, why did I do this?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? Right? So a little bit of regret,
Mm-hmm.
but I have compassion for that part of
Mm-hmm.
myself. This is scary. This is new,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have no idea what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And so that is scary. But then there's also the emotions of like sadness that, I'm not gonna have the life that I had before.
Mm-hmm.
Also joy, and there's hope, and so I just let myself feel
Good.
everything.
Make space for
Um,
it all. Yeah.
everything.
And having your therapist too, right? Your healer, the one that you work with together too, I think also helps just to talk about all that as you're going through that, right? Because I too like thankful that I had my therapist during when I was pregnant with my girls to help talk about all the kinds of fears that I had and help talk like all kinds of things. It's just like yeah, yes, while journaling is a great way to express what you're thinking and what you're feeling, it's also like on another level to just be able to talk with somebody, right? And them to listen and help provide that extra support.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Being in therapy while pregnant is really, really helpful.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, that's for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what would you want someone listening, like who is going through, whether it's trauma or infertility or just like feeling disconnected from their body? what do you think you could share with them? Like what kind of steps, what could they take, or what could their body be trying to communicate with them? Or, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say, but I think to keep it simple, um, your body is always on your side. It's always trying to help
Hmm.
you, even though sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes it feels like your body's working against you. Um, but it's not. It's trying to tell you something. You just have to take the time to sit down and really
Hmm.
listen to what that
Hmm.
is. And that there is another side to this.
Yeah. I love it. And just spending less like that time of that, less time in our head, right? The more that we are
Mhm.
less time in our head, or I should say, like just seeing a gentle shift. Some days are we may be more in our head than other days, right? It's just like you said, that observation, and it's just like that starting point too, helping us reconnect with our bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's really important to say that healing is not a race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The slower, the better. Less is
I
more.
agree. Just to kind of let it go with the flow, right? And instead of rushing through it, and give yourself
Yeah.
your own space. I mean, go at your own pace, really. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How about what advice would you share to any of the listeners that might be feeling skeptical or maybe like hesitant or kind of like unsafe to maybe seeking support from a therapist or healer, guide?
I mean, just know that that's completely normal, right? It's completely normal. Um, but you never know unless you try it. And my advice would be to be open, um, with whoever it is that you're meeting with. Like, be honest. The more honest and open you are, the better we can help
Mm-hmm.
you, right? So I'm speaking as a
Mm-hmm.
therapist. You're open and honest with me, that helps me
Yeah.
help you even
They
more.
help you. It's better, gives you better understanding, right, of what they're going through and what they're feeling for sure. Just having that safe space, just knowing, having that connection with somebody, feel is like that integral part to being open, to be able to be open,
Yeah,
really, right?
yeah, yeah. Because like as a therapist, this is how I was trained. It is my job to take care
Hmm.
of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I do. So if you don't tell me what's going
Yeah. Can
on,
you take
how
care of
can I
you? Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sonia, is there anything else you feel called to share with our listeners who may be walking through a similar path of trauma, infertility, healing
Yeah,
work?
I mean, if you are interested in learning more about healing, somatic healing, spirituality, I have an online course.
Awesome.
It's called Unlock Your Inner Healer. It's on my
I'll be
website
signing
at
up.
Obsidian. Yeah, it's at obsidianwoman.com. And you can also read my blog. Uh, my whole life is out there,
Hmm.
guys. And anything you want
Yeah.
to know is out there. I'm pretty much an open book. I really like sharing about my life because I feel like I've been through a lot and I have a lot
You
of wisdom.
too. Absolutely. Lots of wisdom, personal experience, professional experience. It's all definitely wisdom for sure. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And then, where else could they find you? Do you have an Instagram or website?
On Instagram, my handle is La Sonia Fregoso, LA Sonia Fregoso. And then my website,
Okay.
obsidianwoman.com.
I'll put the links in the show notes. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. And oh, I do have a few episodes on a podcast that I created. It's called the Slow Down
Oh, I love
Podcast.
that. Yeah.
And that's on Spotify.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sonia, for your time, your vulnerability, your energy, especially right now. I really appreciate it. You coming on to the podcast and sharing with our listeners your story, how you're healing, what you're doing, how you're supporting women heal as well. It's such important, amazing work, empowering work. And I feel like, yeah, that's the whole point about bringing more women onto the show and mothers onto the show is to share their healing journeys, to help people see the power in holistic, when we take a holistic approach to our health, mind, body, physical, and spirit, that plays an integral role in our healing and our well-being. So thank you so much for sharing with us. I hope this conversation touched something, so all those listeners out there, because it definitely did for me. And, Sonia's story is definitely a reminder, right, that healing is possible. And obviously it's like not a race, right? It's not a race. You go at your own pace. And when we're willing to go inward, to listen to our bodies, so we can reconnect with it and release what no longer serves us. You never know what lies beneath, right? Yeah, so if this episode resonated with you all, I'd love for you to share it with another woman or mother who might need to hear it today. And if you're on your own healing journey and want to feel more connected, supported, and at peace in your body, be sure to check out the show notes for ways to connect with both Sonia and I. And I thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for Sonia so much. And thank you all for continuing to walk this journey as well. One breath, one layer at a time. So thank you everyone for joining and listening today. Thank you, Sonia. Everyone, take care. Thank you.